Hi, welcome to the fifth episode of The Artistic Spirit by HorseSpirit Arts Gallery. First, I'd like to apologize for the slight delay that we had. We had technical difficulties. I hope you can understand. Tonight, we are having artist Alan, I'm going to say it correctly, Alexopulos. It's a strong Greek name. And he is a master woodturner, and he is going to take us on a tour of his studio and show us his work. But before we begin, I'd like to introduce you to Rob Hix. He is the co-owner of Enlightened Audiovisual. He is the brainchild behind this series, and I couldn't do it without him. So Rob, come up on screen, please.
Hey, Robin, how are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm
Hey,
doing
listen,
good.
can you explain to people how we're going to do this show and how they comment and interact with us?
Sure. So first, I want to apologize to April and to Charlene there, and Lori Hansen is in the room, but I want to apologize for starting late. I haven't been late on a Facebook Live show in 6 months, and every time we tried to hit go live, Facebook it kept giving us an error message. So my apologies in being late to the
It
show.
happens.
It does happen. That's the beauty of live, right? So
Yes.
so the format. So we really appreciate your guys' interactivity. We want this show to be not like television. We want it to be like a campfire. So this is all of us Ellicott City folks hanging out and Annapolis. I don't want to leave Alan out, of course. But Helen Snyder says hi. Beverly Hunter says unforgivable, LOL. Charlene says you are excused. Thank you, Charlene.
Yay.
So yes, so please definitely comment. We'll read out your comments, and like I said, the idea of this is for it to be community. So this is a interactive show, and we really are grateful that that you guys came to watch us today. That's my spiel.
Excellent. Thank you. Hey, Rob, one more technical thing is that I can't see the screen that the viewer is seeing. Can
Okay,
you
stand
put
by.
that on for us?
Yeah.
So, Alan, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit and introduce you. Are you ready?
I am.
All right, here we go. Alan has a bachelor's of science and a master's of science in electrical engineering. He is also a certified professional engineer in the state of Maryland. In addition, Alan's artwork is in the Maryland archives, and he has done technical demos at the Renwick Museum in DC. He is one of the finest woodturners that I have ever seen. So I'd like to introduce you to Alan Alexopulos. I'm going to get it right soon. Hey, Alan.
Well, good evening, Robin, and you certainly did get it right. Thank you.
I struggle with that name. Anyway, welcome.
Well, it's great to be here, and I really look forward to the next half hour. It should be quite entertaining.
Awesome. Well, Alan, why don't we start with you telling us how you got interested in wood turning?
Well, back somewhere around 15 years ago or so, I noticed that a lot of the woodworking that I'd been doing at that time all seemed to have one thing in common. It didn't matter whether I was doing a little cabinet, piece of furniture, whatever. Everything seemed to be formed by right angles. And it just dawned on me that it'd be kind of interesting to add a little content in that wasn't square. So I looked around my shop and realized I had absolutely nothing that was capable, as far as tools were concerned, of doing anything other than right angles. So that kind of got me thinking in terms of a lathe. I did some exploring, and in fact went to a tent show of all things over on the eastern shore of Maryland. And for the grand total of $60, I purchased a real inexpensive lathe, some tools, brought them home, and then realized that I had no idea how to use any of that stuff.
Nice.
The bottom line is I did some research, did some reading, a lot of reading, more reading than Googling, because back then Google wasn't quite what it is today. Mm-hmm. And I started cranking out some real awful things in retrospect. But the bottom line is I convinced myself pretty early on that I needed some guidance from pros. So that led me to join up with the local wood turning club here, Chesapeake Woodturners. Mm-hmm. And through them, I started learning a lot about the process of wood turning. like most art, it's all about the process. And I also became acquainted with some of the folks over at Maryland Hall for the Creative Arts in Annapolis, which just happened to be the high school that I went to and my mother went to.
Oh, wow.
A few years. And I took some courses there from some wonderful instructors. And then it was a matter of time, just letting all the knowledge and the skills that I had been exposed to develop. You know, it's trial and error. It's like a lot of things that, you know, as we learn, we have to say, oh, I just noticed that Lisa and my lovely wife, Janet, are both.
Yay.
Greatly appreciate that.
Yeah. Well,
nice
Alan, I wanted to say one thing is that, you know, I run into people all the time who give art a try one time and then they're instantly not great at it. And then they get discouraged and they stop. But you are a master woodturner. And I hope people will take away from what you said that, you know, you weren't great when you first started and you had to do some research and you joined a club and you practiced. And I hope people will really take that in, that you can become an artist. You can. There's no question that there is a gradation of artistry. You know, there's some great artists and there's some not so great artists. And where you fall is really up to the individual and how much work you're willing to put into it. But to give up after the first try, yeah, I think that's a big mistake. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Alan, are you ready to go on a field trip of your studio and your home? Absolutely. All right, Mr. Rob, can you show us where we're going? Okay, so this is the shed that I have a lot of my turning stock stored in, and there was a little work area out there where I use my chainsaw to process some of the logs that we get in. My studio is pretty cramped and pretty small, so I try to make use of literally every square foot. You'll see big machine tools just about everywhere. I've got hand tools. I've got a kerosene heater down there on the floor, a vacuum system right in front of you with that white bag hanging out of it. And then finally, after all that, my lathe. And there's a little piece that you'll actually see me working on a little bit later that's been mounted on it. And I got to tell Max that that's the system that I use to do the big platter that you have in the gallery. Only I had to do some things to the lathe to make that happen. Well, for the viewer, Max is my sweet husband, and he also turns wood, and his lathe weighs 70 pounds. And in comparison to Alan, he wants Alan's lathe. Hey, there you go. And I have a medium-sized lathe. There's a bunch of rough outs, as we call them, up there on that little deck. Those eventually will become traditional bowls, you know, on an as-needed basis. And then the original shop that I started in was this little garage bay. There's another lathe sitting right there on the table, a drill press. In the background, there's a cabinet that's just chock full of older turning tools. In fact, the first set of turning tools are back there. I have a media blast cabinet that I use to blast some of the soft wood out of pieces to kind of texturize the cabinet. Wow, that's amazing. Hey, I have a question for you. What about the ventilation for wood? Because I see that sometimes when you turn, you get sawdust in your hair, which makes you very handsome, by the way. But what's your ventilation system? Well, I have a layered approach. The first thing that we always try to do is wear a mask, you know, a face mask. In fact, I have a full respirator that actually I'm wearing a face mask in that particular shot. And you can see the wood chips are kind of flying off the lathe there. And if you're not careful, you can get them into your, you know, you can inhale them, you can get them in your eyes. So you really have to practice a huge amount of safety. And your lungs are one of the first things you want to protect. I also have flow-through ventilation. I just open up the back door and the front of the garage door, and usually there's a nice fresh breeze that blows all the sawdust out the front. That's wonderful. Well, first of all, I just have to say that is not a small studio. It might be a small studio to you, but to many artists, your space is huge.
Well, it's good to know, but
Yeah.
I'd like to have it about the size of some of the other folks that have done these videos. So maybe
Well, and you have a ton of tools. I'm impressed.
Well, that's probably 30 years collection if you add up, from when I started collecting them.
Wow. So Ellen, can you tell us more about the process of when you've turned it? What happens then?
Well, in order to turn a piece of wood, you have to find a piece of wood. And there's, thanks to Rob, we have some wood there. And in fact, those particular pieces could be turned into a variety of different shapes. So I have to decide what it is I want to create. That'll determine what type of wood I go choose, the species, the size, and also I look for any telltale signs of figure that will lend tremendous characteristics to the piece that'll make it interesting. Okay, and then we'll take some of those chunks of wood and I'll turn them into kind of blanks, like the one you see there on the right part of the screen, I guess, which it's sort of circular, but not really. So that's going to have to go onto the lathe, and that's when I start creating a piece. And here you can see this is a piece of chestnut oak, and in fact, it looks like it was turned into the shape you see there in 2010. So one of the things that we just have to accept in the world of wood turning is that a lot of times it takes quite a while, and sometimes measured in years, to go from the beginning to a finished piece.
Is that because you're waiting for the wood to dry, or?
That's part of it, but it's in some cases we just collect the wood and then sooner or later decide that it's time to make something out of it. I know I've had pieces of wood for literally decades, and I'm just now getting around to turning some of it.
Nice.
Okay, and now here's an example of what happens to wood as it's drying, especially the kind of traditional piece on the left. It doesn't look circular anymore because as the wood dried, it changed its shape. So that particular piece, we would call that a rough out, and then that would have to be put back on the lathe after it's been dried, and then we'll turn it into a finished piece. Now the other piece that you see there has kind of a bark edge on it. We call it a natural edge bowl, sometimes referred to as a wavy edge bowl. And it turns out those we don't care about if they start changing their shape. That actually adds interest, and it makes people wonder, how the heck did that piece get created?
Yeah.
Because it's not circular anymore, especially after a few hours.
Well, that's lovely.
Yeah, and here's a good example of some of the rough outs that I've been doing over the years. I don't have very many in stock right now, but the bottom line is every one of those pieces was turned at least 7 or 8 years ago. And despite what you might think, none of them are circular. They've all changed their shape, and they're just waiting for an opportunity to become finished. Then this is it's a view of some of the tools that I use. Most wood turners have a huge inventory of tools, mainly because there are a lot of situations where you need something special, to cut a shape that you just can't do with a generic gouge or a skew or any of the standard tools. And in fact, some of those tools I've made myself.
Wow.
That media blast cabinet that I was talking about, we use that to texturize the surface of certain types of woods. And in fact, Robin, if you recollect the pair of tubes that I developed and we had in the gallery before the flood.
Yes, the ones that sold, yes.
Yeah, and it turns out if you just look right over there, I have a new pair that hopefully will be in the gallery soon. And those two pieces, which are kind of a matched set, were inserted into that red cabinet that you see. And I basically sandblasted them, although we don't use sand ever, we use glass beads. And if you had one of these in your hand, you could actually feel the surface texture. It's really wonderful. Plus it makes it possible, if you're so inclined, to count the growth rings. And I've done that on this pair up here.
Wow.
And counted 55 and then got tired. So
That's
that was,
impressive.
yeah. And we use lots of different types of finishes on our pieces. Danish oil it's been around forever. It's a go-to finish. It does a good job of soaking in. It's a penetrating oil. And in many of my pieces, I try to use that because it just tends to bring out the wonderful figure in the piece in ways that other types of finishes just don't do a good job. Here's a good example of a finished piece. It's a traditional bowl shape. On a lot of my pieces, I try to develop fairly small feet, the base for it to sit on the table with. And the logic there is I like the piece to look like it's floating above the surface. And here's a good example. This piece actually has a little foot on it that you really can't see here, but it's down there. It tends to lift the piece off the table or the shelf, wherever you happen to have it. This is one of the pieces that the one you just saw, I had actually texturized that black band around there just to add some interest to it. This piece is, it's a piece of Thoya. Oh, I'm trying to lead Rob, and I shouldn't be doing that.
You're good.
Reverse course there. There you go. Let's stay there for a second. And this is a globe that is actually hollow. We call that a box in the world of wood turning. And it's made out of a piece of Thoya burl. It's a very exotic hardwood. It's on the expensive side. And in fact, the little finials that you see there and the pedestal that it's riding on are all made out of ebony.
Wow. Is that coming to the gallery soon?
It could be.
That would be awesome. That's a beautiful piece.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Alan, so Charlene wants to know what your favorite wood is to turn.
Every wood turner gets asked that. And the best answer that I can offer her is that it's the wood that I'm looking at that moment in time. If the wood has some compelling reason for me to turn it. And I've turned, a lot of the domestic hardwoods. I've turned a whole bunch of exotics. Every single one of them has its own unique qualities that I tend to gravitate to. In the old days, I used to say cherry, but that was when I only had cherry to turn. Since then, it's just about everything. I enjoy turning any piece of wood. I mean, really
Even seeds.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, let's see if I can get my head out of the way. Right there is a kind of a glue up piece, as we call it, that is developed from Banksia. Banksia pods are basically a seed pod that's native to Australia, down in the southwest side, kind of near Perth.
Wow.
And they're really amazing. And that piece that you see up there, similar to another one that I had in the gallery that once upon a time. That piece is hollow all the way down to the base. And all of the holes that you see in there, those are where the seeds used to be. So I didn't have to go in and texturize or do piercing or any of the wonderful other tools that we have to bring to bear.
Hey, Alan.
That is so cool.
Beverly has a question. She says, where do you get the exotic woods?
Well, from different places. I've gotten some on eBay. That tends to be kind of expensive, believe it or not, but it's out there. I am blessed in that literally 2.5 or 3 miles from my house, there is a business. May I plug it? Okay. It's called Exotic Lumber.
Oh,
And they sell exotic lumber.
Nice.
In fact, the owner I've known for many, many, many years is a wonderful fellow. In fact, the big leaf maple burl that you see, the platter here on the screen, that came from that shop. And he specializes in all those types of woods. The other little piece to its side, I'll use that phrase, that's a Banksia pod glue up. So you'll see Banksia pod with the holes in it. And then I can't remember exactly what the other species is. I can't read it there. But we typically combine species like that.
Well, they're both beautiful and they're sitting on the mantle right in front of me. So this brings me to a question is, where do you find your wood besides exotic lumber? And specifically, where did that piece over your shoulder come from?
Oh, okay. I think that's a segue. As Robin and I both know, that came from her yard. It's a piece of what we thought originally was sumac. And by the way, we're speaking about, that one. Right?
Yeah.
And that one is destined for the gallery, I might add. Yay.
Yay.
So anyway, that one we thought was sumac. It's actually called tree of heaven. And it is not native to the United States. And in fact, that species of tree is considered an invasive species. People do everything they can to get rid of it. Well, as a woodturner, bring it on.
How did it get in our yard?
Well, that was that huge burl that you acquired from somewhere. I'm not sure where, but
right. Somebody gave it to Max because he's a woodturner, and then we invited you and the other woodturners from the gallery over, and y'all just had fun.
We did, and I still have a little bit left, just FYI.
That's so awesome.
It really looks good, and it's a little hard to see back there, but it's very thin. And I colorized the rim to just add some interest. On the screen now, we've got another platter that I did. This one is kind of a winged bowl, is what we call it. And if you could look at it from the side, you see that the bowl actually looks like it was pushed right through the plane of the wood, which is kind of neat. It also was developed from a piece of walnut crotch wood, which has absolutely magnificent figure, color. In fact, if you look at the 5 sides, you'll see one side has the bark on it. The one on the bottom has the bark removed, but it's the natural edge. And then the other 3 sides, pardon me, have been cut. So it really looks pretty good.
It's a beautiful piece. And also you built that stand for it.
I did. What I found is that like most artists, you'd like to make sure that people can really appreciate a piece that you've done.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to kind of walk away from the store-bought stands and develop something yourself. And here's a great example of it.
Oh.
This piece was turned out of big leaf maple burl that's native to the Pacific Northwest. The rings that you see in the platter, which by the way, it's all one piece. That's not a glue up of any sort.
Amazing.
Were actually cut. I turned them into the piece, and then I bleached them rather than painting them. And by bleaching them, the figure in the wood popped right through, so that you could see it no matter where you look on the rings. And then I created the ebony post and the mahogany base.
It's beautiful. It's just stunning.
Thank you.
That's my favorite piece in the gallery. Can you please tell them how big that big piece was?
It's almost 2 feet in diameter.
Wow.
That's challenging for my lathe. So from side to side, it's almost 2 feet.
Do you have to rotate your lathe to do that?
I do. We do what's called outboard turning. And it's challenging in its own right, but the lathe that I have is capable of doing it.
That is a stunning piece.
Mm-hmm.
All right, show us those little pieces.
Yeah, now not all my pieces are big like that. In fact, most of them they tend to be on the smaller side. And these are 2 pieces of burls. I think one's cherry, and it's been a while. Like I have to look at the specs on the other. But the bottom line is both of those are boxes. That is, they are hollow on the inside. So you can literally pull the top off and take a peek in, and the burl pattern on both pieces just blazes on the inside and the outside.
The
piece on the right is kind of interesting because if you look carefully at the dark area on the top, there's a little tray there. And I call this a ring tray box because you could put some rings on there and store them like on your dresser.
Yeah, those are really beautiful pieces. Just beautiful. Rob, do you have some other things to show us in the gallery?
So here's an example of a mahogany platter that I textured and I painted, I used some black gesso on it just to add some interest. There are times when wood doesn't stand all by itself. You have to help it a little bit, and this is one example. What you can't see in this picture is that the backside of the platter has been textured in its own unique way as well. So this
that's a piece to sit in the center of the room so you can see both sides.
Yes, indeed.
Well, is our field tour over, or are there any other? Oh my goodness.
Now this piece is kind of special. It was relatively hard to turn because it's about 15 or 16 inches wide. And for any wood turners that are watching, you know that you're literally spinning a one-bladed propeller at 1,000 RPM to try to deal with that. But for everyone else, it's important to know that that piece of wood, which is turned from a species called kauri, Kauri, comes from New Zealand. And that particular piece of wood is 30,000 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Petrified.
That's amazing. Alan, do you have that with you?
Yes.
Can you show them?
Well, let's give it a go.
Wow.
You get an idea of the scale. And it has been turned literally from one end to the other. So there's a dish here, and then it's all one piece. There's no glue or anything else, just so that you can see it. But what I'm holding in my hand was when it was standing in the tree, when the tree was standing in the forest, there were mastodons and saber-toothed tigers and who knows what else meandering through the woods underneath it.
We should show it to the Smithsonian. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Well, Alan, is there anything else that you would like the people watching to know?
Well, I think the bottom line on wood turning is that it is as much of an art form as anything else that's in the gallery. The gallery itself, your gallery, Robin, is an amazing collection of artwork that should satisfy just about everyone. You've done such a great job of attracting wonderful artists and outstanding art in a fashion that has to be seen to be understood. And just on that basis alone, I would encourage any of the viewers that are in Ellicott City, please come in and take a peek at the gallery. It is just absolutely wonderful. And give it a little bit of time. Some of the pieces that are behind me will be there for you to enjoy. Make you happy, Robin.
Thank you so much, Alan. Thank you. Well, it was an absolute pleasure to be with you today. And it's an absolute pleasure to represent the artist in the gallery. So thank you. All right, so now it's time to talk about a historic Ellicott City. As you know, we all got hit in a flood on the 30th of July. So that's like 8 or 9 months ago. And to promote the businesses in Ellicott City, I would like to introduce you tonight to Donna Sanger and her daughter, Julia, who own Park Ridge Trading. And this is a 3-minute segment, and they're going to tell you about their business. Rob, here we go.
Together we own Park Ridge Trading Company. Park Ridge Trading Company is a new addition to Main Street. We're located at 8080 on Main Street, and we carry a wide variety of fine specialty foods that taste good and are easy to make.
And we like to think that we carry things that you can't find in the grocery store, that are unique items. And if you're ever not sure what to do with something, you can ask either one of us and we'll give you some recipe ideas. So stop in and see us, check us out. You can take a look at our website. It's www.parkridgetrading.com, and we're also on Facebook as Park Ridge Trading.
Right after the flood, gave my husband and I a jar of their spaghetti sauce, and it is absolutely fabulous. They have all sorts of oils, and they are just a few doors down from the gallery, so I hope that you will come and visit them. So I want to tell you about next week's show. Next week will be episode 6, and we will have painter Trudy Babchak. So first of all, Trudy is the co-director of the Columbia Arts Center here in Maryland, which is really close to Ellicott City. And she's getting ready to have a show on the 1st of April here with some, Sunday the 2nd of April, with some other artists in the gallery. Her paintings are extraordinary. They're deeply moving, they're soulful, and they're also joyful. So I really hope that you will tune in and hear all about Trudy. So in closing for tonight, Rob, is there anything else you'd like to say?
What do I want to say? Well, my microphone is on. So no, it was a good show. I mean, it was really what I enjoy about doing these with you week to week is that now, because we're featuring one of the artists and we're also giving a segment to one of the local business owners. For me, it's cool being a small business owner myself, that I'm guaranteed to meet 2 brand new Ellicott City business owners every week. So that's, I mean, it's so weird that I've lived in Ellicott City for 16 years, and it's really only been in the last 4 months that I've really felt like I'm bolted onto to the community. So, I get a lot of value in doing this show, and obviously meeting with Alan and April and Charlene and Beverly. It's just been fantastic. So I'm glad that you're doing the show, and hopefully this is all over time going to bring us together. And like I said, we got a lot more comments tonight, which was cool. Beverly was asking questions, Charlene was asking questions. Carlos has been in the room saying, let's see, he said, thank you, Robin, for all you do for all the artists in your gallery.
Oh, that's very sweet. Carlos is a very talented jewelry artisan. Oh, and a shout out to Cecilia Battle, who's an artist in a gallery. I'm wearing one of her necklaces that I bought. I love it. It moves and it has a blue druzy in the middle. So Rob, thank you for everything you do. Thank you again, Alan. And I look forward to seeing you all next week with Trudy Babchak. So I hope you have a wonderful evening. Come and visit the gallery in Ellicott City, and come and visit the businesses in Ellicott City. We would love to see you. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you next Thursday.